Welcome to Vintage Vehicle Videos, the racing issue. In this issue, we'll take you to the Motorsports Hall of Fame in Novi, Michigan, just west of Detroit. Then we'll take a visit with the Antique Automobile Racing Association. And finally, we'll see some vintage footage of some old jalopies racing in the late 40s or early 50s.
Hi, my name is Ron Watson. I am the president of the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America, located in Novi, Michigan, just outside of Detroit. This is a national hall of fame for all of motorsports. You can see in this room we have various photographs of people. These are our most recent inductees into the Hall of Fame. And what is unique about this Hall of Fame is that it covers all motorized vehicles. Not only do we commemorate and we have special categories in which we induct people for stock car racing, open wheel racing, sports car racing, and drag racing. We also commemorate motorized vehicles in the air and in the water, power boats, air racing. We also have an at-large category and a motorcycle category. So we try to catch everything that is possible in the motorized vehicle field. And every year in June, and it's just prior to the Winston Cup auto race at Michigan International Speedway, we have a black tie induction ceremony. Just like the Oscars, everybody who's anybody in motorsports attends, and we give them our Oscar. Our award that we give them is right over here, and I'll show you this. It's quite substantial. It weighs about 15 pounds. It's a sculpture that was done exclusively for the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America by sculptor Michael Curtis from Ann Arbor. It's entitled Horsepower. The horse is triumphing over earth and wind and water to show that it's not just cars we talk about, but anything that's motorized. This is a treasured possession of many of these people, and you'll find these in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Hall of Fame, the Don Garlits Hall of Fame, and some of our other inductees all across the country. We have several NASCAR stock cars throughout the museum, and this sport is so popular. Some of our visitors can go right by the most high-tech machines to come to these sort of low-tech stock cars, because basically this is the sport of the people. It is the most spectator-watched motorsport, certainly in the United States, and extremely popular. And this particular car really has some significance in that whole gaining of popularity. Right about 1988, 1989, there was a huge spike in attendance, and a lot of people credit it to this particular car. Why would you say that? It's not necessarily because it's a Chevrolet or because it was driven by Darrell Waltrip or that the next year after this one won the Daytona 500. It's really what's written on the hood and on the side panel here. It's a laundry detergent that became in as a sponsor, and right about then it seemed like more families, more women, more children were drawn into the spectatorship of this particular sport. And people say the Tide Ride was the one that really marked the change when the interest in stock car racing really went up, and now we see it today. It's an unbelievable phenomenon, the most popular motorsport in America. This room is pretty indicative of the variety that is here at the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America. We have some open wheel cars like this modern car from the kart series. We have a 60s vintage Indy car. We have a couple stock cars. As you can see, the row of motorcycles here, highlighted by the Husqvarna that Malcolm Smith, one of our inductees, won the Baja 1000 on, and was the feature performer in the classic motorcycle movie from the 70s, On Any Sunday. So that really kind of shows that we really have every kind of motorsports here, and it's all kind of based around this one vehicle here, which is the namesake of the city of Novi. This is the Novi Special. The Novi Special actually were several cars from 1946 through 1965. They were campaigned by a Novi, Michigan industrialist by the name of Lou Welsh. Later he sold the team to Andy Granatelli. You see this paint job is the typical Andy Granatelli paint job. This is the very last of the Novi specials. These were awesome cars that were powered by a supercharged V8 and were often the very fastest at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, set several records, led the race at many times, and are known as the most famous car that never won the Indianapolis 500. It's really legendary though around the world. There's almost a cult following to it. We have visitors from every part of the planet that have heard about this car and the line of Novi cars that come especially to see this. And so we're grateful that we have this car that was driven back in 1964 and 1965 by the young Bobby Unser, who is also one of our inductees. Variety is the name of the game here at the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America, as you can see by the vehicles that are arrayed in this particular room. We can start out with a road racing pickup truck that was driven by Bobby Archer in the SCCA road racing series, specifically designed for pickup trucks. He was very successful in that vehicle. We also have a racing airplane here, the Night Twister, which was a racing biplane, and we're grateful to have that here as well. You can see that we have a hydroplane that indicates the powerboat category of the Motorsports Hall of Fame, a Formula 5000 car. This particular one was driven by the great motorcycle racer Mike Halewood. We have another open wheel car in the rear here, driven by Pancho Carter, a championship dirt track sprint car. A replica of Barney Oldfield and Henry Ford's famous 999. This particular replica was built for the 1964 World's Fair. It's a replica of the car that actually set a speed record back in 1903. And then we have this famous Can-Am car that was driven by, this is a Lola that was driven by Hall of Fame inductee Peter Gregg, and actually one of the very first Eagles that was designed by Hall of Famer Dan Gurney. Okay, this is a popular feature we have here at the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America, a 24th scale slot car track that we have available for our visitors and for parties and events that come to the Hall of Fame. And so I guess we got a little challenge going with Jim here to do a little head-to-head racing. Okay. So let's see what we can do. Oh my goodness, almost got nerfed off the track. As in real racing, those who stay on the track win the race. Here we have an example of one of our early snowmobiles. Actually, a lot of people think it's much older than it is. It's from 1963, but it's really when snowmobiles started taking the shape that we're familiar with somewhat. And it's very primitive in design, but it is an early winterized motorsport. And over here we have a little, I guess, sort of another one that is not all that sophisticated in terms of design, but it sure did go fast. This is one of our inductees, Art Arfon's first jet car. It's called, all of his cars were called the Green Monster, so this is a Green Monster, but it was also called Cyclops. He did set a speed record on the Bonneville Salt Flats back in 1962. He went 342 miles an hour. Now this is an open cockpit vehicle, and really it still holds the record for open cockpit speed records at 342. He set that record with a slightly smaller jet engine than this particular one. When he put this one in, he found out he had somewhat of a design defect. He was sitting right in front of the intake of the jet. When he went over about 400 miles an hour, he couldn't breathe because all the air was taken away from him. He's basically sitting in a vacuum. And so instead of designing a different type of cockpit for this car, he just put this engine in another car and went over 600 miles an hour in that one. But this is his very first jet car, and it's very, very popular here at the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America. Art Arfons was known as the junkyard genius of Akron, Ohio, and legend has it that there was a single headlight sitting on his workbench in his shop down in Akron. I think he's kind of designed these cars as he went along. He installed that headlight in the front of this particular vehicle, hence the name Cyclops. And you can see the open cockpit design that he sat in front of this 17,000 horsepower jet engine. I think it takes a special kind of person to strap yourself into one of these and light it up. We invite you all to come to the town that named this famous vehicle. That's Novi, Michigan. We're here at the Motorsports Hall of Fame, and we welcome you to come just outside of Detroit whenever you can.